Everybody, and welcome back to the Crypto Night Show. Your host, Superman in the house. And man, we had some major volatility again overnight. We are in this what am I trying to say? Volatile period. We definitely are. And of course, it's going to be crazy out there, probably for the rest of this week, no doubt. We got inflation coming out right on Thursday. So it's going to be pretty interesting with the CPI, Consumer Price Index there. Now, obviously, we also got the Fed pretty stubborn around interest rates. I don't know. There could be a bit of conspiracy theory there. You can decide. But, inflation's not that much higher than their target. But they're trying to talk about not even going from one or two cuts to no cuts this year. Is that a bit of a Democrat run? Supposed to be independent, right? But, they play games. We see games across America with the Democrats with these paid protests and organized by NGOs, the Democrat Party, kicking the swing, mainstream media backing them up. And then, of course, the whole thing goes global to all their mainstream media outlets. And, of course, then they start tampering of some of the key inputs into the U.S. economy. And, of course, interest rates being one of those key ones, right? Now, they can't deal with energy that very much, but they can do that. And, of course, all the court judges that they've got are trying to rig and pretend that they're the president of the United States. So there's quite a few things on the fire there for the Democrat resistance movement, which does not have America's best interest in heart. And, of course, that is Donald Trump. A lot of people here get fed the mainstream media, and they know nothing about the facts. They just completely ignorant and believe everything they hear. So it's unfortunate, but it's just the way it goes because they don't if you don't have your critical thinking cap on, you will fall for that stuff. A lot of people, not everybody, of course, but that's just the way it goes. So we're going to get into all of that today. We're going to be talking about China, United States, and trade wars. Obviously, we had a pretty bullish stock market overnight, and then it sort of all retraced with the China tariff news about 104%. So we're going to get into that. And what does it mean for crypto? We're going to have a few perspectives on that, and also go through Trump's master strategy. As I put out, I did a video not so long ago. We're going to do a bit of an update of that as well, and talk about the three-legged stool strategy that they are running through the commerce and commerce department there. So we're going to check that out as well. Let's say hello to a few people in the house. We've got Hexcavator here. Hey, good to see you, Hexcavator. Big shout out to you in the USA. We've got Brian, community leader in the USA as well. Big shout out to you. Sup, folks? And we've got Hedgehog as well. Woo! Always excited. And a big shout out to Brennan. He's in Australia, China swimming in tariffs. Yeah, it looks like that way, doesn't it? And of course, we got good old Wookie down in New Zealand. Big shout out to you, fellow Kiwi there. We are a rare breed these days. And a big shout out to you, Wookie. Howdy, Jedi. So big shout out. Now, if you're over on Rumble, big shout out to you. And don't forget to hit the follow button and definitely share the channel around. You guys are amazing over there. I really do enjoy it over there. It is a freedom platform. Let's be fair. And they're probably the best in the world, really. So a big shout out over to Rumble, and get into the comments and get active, get engaged. Really important. And look forward to your comments there as well. Now, I have also posted the link to the Telegram group, and you got the links to our Discord in the video description. So join our community today and become part of our vibrant community. We talk crypto, we talk politics, talk society, we talk sports, we talk all sorts of things, entertainment. Get in there and become part of our community. Be wonderful there. Now, I'm going to post the link on YouTube to the Telegram, but of course, all the Discord links are in the video description. So definitely follow there. And that is the link into Telegram. And of course, we've just launched that, right? So you have to take put a space in between, but that is the link there. And a big shout out to MV in the house there. And of course, Wookie doing a great job there with the Telegram. Now, the other thing, of course, is on X. We're streaming on X as well now, which is pretty exciting. So we're live streaming now. So hopefully everybody can see that. In fact, I'm going to do a refresh here just to make sure it's up and running. And I'm going to repost that out. So definitely repost that if you have. But it's pretty cool. And we're going to get into that now. So let's jump into it. Without further ado, let's go into the live stream. This is our the X profile, just building up from scratch again. And of course, had some trouble with X with my other account, and so they took it down for no reason. Tried to petition it about 10 times and heard nothing, heard crickets. So I thought X was supposed to be truly freedom, but it looks like Rumble's still king of the hill. But in any case, a lot of cryptos on the old X there. And if you haven't followed, definitely follow the Crypto Night Show. well worth joining up there. And we're posting out lots of variety and some of the best of crypto topics, some of the best politics, some of the best Pulse chain coverage and Titanx coverage, lots of different things. We're going to be covering X1 chain when it launches. It's a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun on this road, as it were. But let's get into the news today. The stock market, of course. Let's get into that. And we had the S&P 500 ends below 5,000, an ugly reversal on trade, war angst. And of course, we saw that it was actually rallying really hard and then a big, quick reversal in the stock market during the day, intraday trading. We got the Dow Jones has actually ended up down just over 0.8%, 320 points to 37,645. S&P down 1.6%, and 80 points at 4,982. So slipped below that 5,000 mark. And we've got the NASDAQ with all the tech companies in it is down a 2.15%. So a big reversal there at 335 points after yesterday's, bullish move there on NASDAQ. And that is at 15,267. So those are the indices. The S&P volatility index here, the VIX, is up 11.4%. So, risk off, as it were. And the United States dollar, they're depreciating 102.5 versus its trading partners. And that could be a very interesting mix coming up with President Donald J. Trump. Of course, with a cheaper dollar, there you become more competitive. But with a stronger dollar, you dampen down inflationary and any tariff tax effects as well, right? So there's a bit of a double whammy there. Remember, tariffs are paid by importers. Just remember that. So, but it does affect the sales ultimately for tariffed countries. Now we've got the crude oil there sitting at $58, down 2.8%. Now, Donald Trump wanted lower inflation and lower oil prices. And of course, lower oil prices means the economy booms, but also means that up in the north there, and especially in North America, you have your driving season in summer. And man, you guys, fingers crossed that these oil prices keep going down, because you guys are going to love your summer in that way, aren't you? So you can give Trump's going to give you a good summer for driving. We got Brent oil there at $61, down 0.5%. Gold is just slipped below $2,994. No, I'd say $2,994. I don't know. I put a extra 9 in there for some reason. And then we got silver there is down 0.6%, 17 cents to $29.51. So it's below $30 too. So those are kind of the commodities there at the moment. Let's get into a bit of the commentary that's going on overnight. Global trade wars, of course, rise as tariffs on China loom. Of course, China responded to the United States, right, with a 34% tariff. So President Trump later Monday reaffirmed his administration's commitment to implementing reciprocal tariffs, downplaying any leeway for negotiations. The president doubled down on his threat to impose an additional 50% tariff on Chinese goods if China did not withdraw its recent 34% tariff increase on U.S. products by April the 8th, 2025. Now, let's give a bit of background. So, in President Trump's 45th presidency, and of course up to 2020, they put tariffs on to China and 20%, and China kept they kept leveling up, putting higher tariffs there, and of course there was a bit of a trade war tussle there. But Trump really hadn't dealt with a lot of the other countries, at least enough of them, besides America, Canada, and Mexico. And of course, they ended up, routing through Mexico, and all sorts of tricks were going on there with the Chinese in response. Now, this time, of course, Trump has gone for pretty much the whole world, and of course, that means he's after one thing. What's he after? The art of the deal. He's after chaos and leverage. So that's what he's after. And it doesn't matter how accurate the tariff analysis is, with these tariffs, because they're really based on some sort of ratio between imports and exports. And of course, that's not the traditional method you'd use for tax percentages, but it's very important to create chaos and, of course, to give some, even if it's a fake form of justification, to deal with the tariffs. Now, there are real tariff issues in the world, very much so. Obviously, the European Union, Japan, many other countries in the world with tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers, and of course, national goods and services taxes, which are indirect taxes. So you got a lot of issues there. You got a lot of quotas as well. You got a lot of dumping going on. So you got lots of different issues there, particularly in the heavy industries like aluminium and steel and things like that. You got people that producing China's producing 2 coal-powered stations per week. And this is sort of the hilariousness. And of course, under the Paris Agreement, they don't have to pay anything, and everyone else has to pay, and it ends up going to them for the most part. and probably get fitted away with NGOs and other stuff. So it's a pretty big deal, right? Anyway, getting back to where this is heading. So obviously, China has backed themselves into a corner with Xi Jinping there, and of course, they really say, "Well, we're going to stand up for ourselves, and we're not going to come to the negotiation table. We are China, and of course, you treat us with respect and all sorts of stuff like that." Now, obviously, the big problem here's the big problem. So the big problem is that that America has a 1.2, 1.3 trillion dollar deficit each year. It's had that for decade after decade, up to that sort of amounts, particularly last 10 years. I think it's been something around 10 to 12 trillion. And so that's a big deal. And what that also means is that they've got to pay for that. You've got to pay for that deficit. Now, obviously, America does services as well, and they're very good at exporting services. But with the actual physical products, they have a couple of problems, right? They gutted the Midwest. They've gutted a lot of manufacturing, 7 million jobs. And of course, even though they've got cheaper prices to some degree, because manufacturing's gone over to cheaper countries with cheaper labor, they have lost real wages growth, right? And that's pretty much gutted a lot of Mid America, North America, and of course the coasts have been okay, right? Because they're sitting in professional services, and they largely don't care. You know, they're largely Democrat states. They don't care what happens to all the GOP states. And of course, not only do they don't care, but they've been, had this big plan to indoctrinate and then pull down what's made America great, right, and turn it into basically a hellhole. And that's the problem, right? Never fix anything, indoctrinate your kids, all the rest of it. The drill. So it's pretty horrendous. So Trump's going to U-turn all that stuff. What does he need? He needs to create chaos. He needs to create leverage, and that's what he's doing. And it's the art of the deal, right? Art of the deal. And so this is where to play. So what's happened so far? Up to 70 countries already have already come up to negotiate because they want to make a deal. And of course, Trump's holding most of the cards, so it's going to be a pretty good deal in America's favor. And of course, America is the big consumer of the world, 20% of the world's GDP, $28 trillion in GDP. And of course, it's going to be a huge thing for the United States. Now, obviously, the United States got to fix up a couple of things, right? So here's a couple of things it's got to fix up. It's got to fix up its federal deficit, right? So it ends about $7.5 trillion in federal deficit. Ends about $5.5 trillion in income for the federal budget, but it has about $7 trillion or more in expenses, and so it's got a $2 trillion deficit, right? And $1 trillion of that deficit is interest payments. So it's insanity, and of course, those interest payments are only going to get worse and worse and worse. Within the next 5 to 10 years, they'll get up to 30% of the federal budget, which is just a collapse. Right, it's kind of a collapse. That's just a crazy thing. And of course, people who own the bonds, like China, has something like $850 billion in bonds, earns about probably 4 to 5% of that trillion dollars in debt. And of course, it uses it to do all its activities around the world, including undermining the United States, right? And of course, recently we saw China send a military flotilla down through Australia and New Zealand, and just to intimidate, right? And maybe even to plan a possible future attack. So it's pretty crazy what they do. Now, obviously, China's trying to fix all that stuff up, fix up the globe. And of course, he's using hard power, soft power to do that. And of course, diplomacy. But of course, he's going to reposition all these countries in a new world order, something we haven't seen since Reagan in the 80s, and of course before that in the Bretton Woods in the 1940s. So this is going to be pretty major. And of course, the first thing he has to do is get rid of that budget deficit. And of course, that is $2 trillion. He's got obviously Doge Doge there from Elon Musk, trying to get $1 trillion out of the budget there. And there's a lot more to be found, right? A lot more than $1 trillion. But that's kind of where they're heading. That would get them down to $1 trillion. Then the other side, of course, is growing the U.S. economy, and then therefore, and also dealing with taxes, right? Dealing with taxes to encourage that as well. And so they will be able to get their income and budget to balance budget, right? So the first thing he's trying to do, get the balanced budget. And what he has to do that, he has to grow the U.S. economy 3 to 4%, right? And of course, we haven't seen 4% rates since in the America since the 1940s, 1950s. We've had 3% rates probably in the 80s or so, and now we've been getting down to about 2.5 to 2% growth rates now. So he's going to reverse all that, get America back up to 3 or 4% GDP growth, and of course, the usher in the golden age of America. So that's kind of the first thing he's trying to do, and he's got a number of things to do that with, right? So he's going to try and get the regulations changed as well. So not only just on Wall Street, but also Main Street, he's going to deal with business regulations and also banking regulations around leverages and reserves to boost up all that leverage. So he's going to try and get a lot of capital flowing, and of course he's going to try and get wages up, right? So get a lot of new manufacturing in the United States. Now it's not all going to just be the old manufacturing, right? Because we know it's not just that China and other places like that have been taking all the manufacturing because of cheap labor, but also because of technology, right? Technology has played a big role there. But he's going to try and get the real wages back up and the U.S. economy flourishing, right? Because that's been the sacrifice for lower prices has been the wages side. So it's going to be a really big deal there. And of course, that's going to benefit the people, the biggest victims in the Midwest and the North there in the United States that were not only neglected by the Democrats on the coast, but also abused. and this is a great freedom for the United States. So it's going to be pretty awesome from that point of view. He's going to also, a big theme here is very important. Not only is he going to deal with a federal budget, which no one has dealt with before, he's also and get to balanced budget and even into surplus potentially, because obviously if you get the surplus, you can then start paying down the US debt. The US debt sitting at about 37 trillion, right? So that is the end game. And he's obviously mentioned that yesterday. If you haven't checked it out on the Oval Office, talking about that. Now, obviously, also doing the regulations. So he's dealing on federal budget, number one. It's dealing with the regulations, number two. Is dealing with all that business and financial and getting leverage into place. Now, between those, of course, he's going to be shifting a bit. He's going to be shrinking the US government. So he's closing down departments, getting rid of corruption and all that good stuff there. And then he's going to be shifting a lot of the US economy, shrinking that big government and pushing it into the private sector. And of course, the private sector is much more efficient, much more productive. And of course, it's going to be a big part of making the golden age of America. So that's where he's heading with all this. A very, very impressive strategy there. And of course, he uses tough love, because you can't just do this ordinarily. You can't just go and have meetings, say, hey, guys, let's do this together. You just can't do that, right? The liberal world order is against him, right? They're against him. They're against us, the people, right? So they're into propaganda and control. They want everyone to be big consumers and slaves. They want to break up all the societies that are out there and just have one big slave class, and they're sit at the top. That's what they really want to do, right? They're utterly corrupt, utterly narcissistic, and they're very bad people, right? So that's what we're dealing with, and Trump's kind of coming through with the sword. The worst thing is they get mainstream media to go around and indoctrinate all the people to make sure they feel like that actually Trump's the bad guy and they're the good guys, which is the hilarious part of it, right? That's the hilarious part of it. And I've seen this in New Zealand. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. People don't know nothing about anything, and they just believe what the media tells them, and they get all angry with Trump. And they're like, oh, Trump's the end of the world. It's like, no, you're already in the end of the world. You're the one that's been indoctrinated, and you're the fool, right? You're the fool. So you really got to get out of that. So number three in the three-legged stool strategy, as I say. So number one is balanced budget to surplus. Number two is the regulations and getting in a leverage as well. So dealing with Main Street and Wall Street. And of course, Main Street is really the big part there. And of course, shifting public allocations, shrinking the public and expanding the private, and booming in the United States with all the different technology. So what's he been doing with that? Massive investment, right? So already up to about $7 trillion of committed investment coming. And of course, that includes AI, includes semiconductors, includes ports and shipbuilding manufacturing, includes energy with LNG ports and things like that. So really boom time. And of course, expanding into space technology, robotics, all this stuff, AI, all converging, and of course, booming in the United States with this high-tech sector, right? And you're going to need a lot of manufacturing, a lot of people to build those things and to manufacture a lot of things, right? So there will be a structural shift, obviously, away from some old school things, because technology is going to replace a lot of that, particularly if they get AI robots moving at a decent pace, at least as fast as humans. Then that is where we're at. And that could be only, 3 to 5 years away. We already see AI robotics getting pretty close. They've still got a bit of work to do, probably another 3 years, my guess. But we already see quite a few, factories being automated. And we see humanoid type of robots, not too far away, are they? Not too far away. In fact, we're going to see them land on Mars if Elon Musk has his way at the end of next year, when they send starships to Mars, because that's the shortest window to get to Mars, right? So that's going to be fun to see all that. And you could imagine during the old golden age of America, it's going to be pretty epic seeing a starship land on Mars. assuming it lands successfully, of course, with a whole ton of others. There'll be a whole ton of ships going probably. And of course, then you see the doors open, and because they're going to have cameras there, right? I mean, this is Elon Musk. Now, there's about a 4-minute delay to between Mars and Earth, and then you're going to see these these humanoid robots walk out onto Mars. It's going to, honestly, it's just going to be mind blowing, and it's just going to be one of those things that people remember about the golden age of America is Elon Musk and Donald J. Trump landing on Mars with humanoid robots. It's going to be crazy. Going to be crazy. Anyway, so that is kind of where we are there at the moment. So yeah, they'll probably break away from us and end up having war with Mars, and they truly will have some aliens there, but like the Borg in Star Trek. If you've seen that. Yeah, all right. Number 3, the League, of course, is reordering the international trading system. And of course, we haven't seen this, like I say, since the 80s and since the 1980s and 1940s. And of course, this is huge, right? So tariff realignment, creating chaos, and of course, already got all the countries very quickly getting in line. So he wants to reorder them. Those that are friends, those that are enemies, those that are neutral, and of course, they're going to all be allocated accordingly, and their benefits will be allocated accordingly as well. So we already see, the Secretary of State in Panama today. We see, not Secretary of State, sorry, the Secretary of Defense in Panama today. Talking about getting China out of there, and Panama is online. Panama is in alignment, and so that is shoring up the defense for the United States there, because China was taking over a lot of the Panama buildings there and using spies and all sorts of stuff. It's pretty crazy out there. You're just getting on with your average day, right? You just want to go and have a great day, great life with your family and friends. And meanwhile, you got big states here setting up spy bases and who knows what other sleeper cells and everything else they're doing. It is a pretty crazy world we live in, right? But then we got reordering international trading system there. We're going to have that happen, right? That's going to include, of course, bringing manufacturing in the United States. It's going to obviously include the tax bill, which just went through last weekend, and that's the beginning of that's going to go through to about May, June, maybe even early July the 4th there to get that through. That's going to be obviously extending Trump's tax cuts, and maybe even getting some more. And that's going to boom the private sector. Remember, all the investments going to private sector, the jobs are being reduced in the public sector, moving them all into the private sector, and of course, importing new people with Trump's gold card and everything else as entrepreneurs, and of course, investment that way as well. So it's all pushing the private sector to boom, right? And of course, that's going to benefit the United States and get the United States back up to that 3-4% GDP. That's also going to come back on the federal budget and fix all that up, right? So that's kind of where he's heading this with that. Now, obviously, underpinning all of this stuff is cheap energy. So obviously, that's the first thing he targeted. And of course, the first thing he targeted was dealing with energy, and of course, going to be looking at Alaska with Anwar and getting, really tapping in, potentially all gas fields up there that are, size of Saudi Arabia. So this is a big change. Lots of things coming. It's all going to happen fast. That's why his movies is so fast. Not only for this plan because he's got to get it in place, but also because he's got to counter the Democrats, right, which have been, trying to destroy America and usher it over and basically hand it over to the globalists, right? And get paid on the way. And they don't care what they do, right? They don't care what they do. All right, so that's kind of the main strategies that we've got going on there, just as a background. So that's kind of where we are. Yeah, so tariffs on China, which are a total of about 104%. That's the big threat. And of course, that sent markets back down overnight. And of course, they're expected to do some pretty crazy things in the future there. So that's kind of where we are. And of course, Vested had been hoping that President could pause hiking tariffs on China, but the White House confirmed the tariffs would go into effect there on the 9th, of course. That said, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's the one leading all this, right? There's another guy as well, but this is there's basically two of them that are kind of leading this direction, indicated that the administration is open to negotiations aimed at reducing trade barriers, indicating that maybe almost 70 countries, including Japan, have contacted the White House regarding negotiating tariffs. Also, the Washington Post reported that Tesla, Elon Musk, had made direct appeals to Trump to reverse tariffs over the past weekend. But of course, that is wrong. So I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and he's got a lot of the best ideas, but he's wrong on this one. He's wrong on this move. Tariffs widely have been touted a tax on the American consumer, but the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer said in his testimony in front of the Senate Finance Committee later that the costs from tariffs really filter through to consumer. And we definitely saw this in Trump's first term, particularly with steel and aluminum as the primary inputs into the U.S. economy. And of course, you're going to need to build that manufacturing capacity, not just for the economy boom, and you've got to also build ships and ports and buildings, bridges and everything else, but you also got to have security. At the moment, if you're pushing all those exports here, you might be getting cheaper prices, but you're actually now vulnerable to a takeover. That's why China is booming with its navy and everything else, and America has been in relative decline, moving down to about fifth position on the manufacturing volume. So, it is a big deal there. And of course, also obviously affected, people in the Midwest and so forth, a lot of Republican voters. The economic slate is largely empty Tuesday, with most attention on the consumer price index coming up on Thursday. That's going to be very important there. Chicago Fed Reserve Bank President Austin Goolsbee said on Tuesday, acknowledged that the tariffs rolled out by the Trump administration was harsher than expected. That said, UBS sees the potential for U.S. monetary policy to shift if equity markets weaken further, arguing that 5% drop on the S&P 500 from current levels could be enough to trigger Federal Reserve action. And this will be another outcome that Trump wants, right? He wants lower interest rates because you want lower energy inputs into the U.S. economy. You want lower interest into money. And then if you've got those and you also get the Fed to print money, then you're on boom time, right? You got boom time for investment. You've got boom time for low costs and high returns. You got boom time for money printing. Of course, that means risk on assets. That means crypto does well. That's what we got going there. A very, very big deal. And we got Brendan in the house there. If enough countries make a deal with the United States, that puts China in the rock and a hard place. Absolutely. And that's where the leverage is important, right? Because the leverage means if you take all the countries this time, you didn't do that last time, you do it this time, it means China's got really nowhere to go. And of course, you put a lot of pressure on them. They are on the weaker side. They have to export, right? So it's fundamental to their economy. And so that means that there's a lot more pressure put on China. So at the end of the day, China can be tough at the moment. They've kind of boxed themselves in there into that position. It's going to probably end very badly for them both politically and economically if they continue to pursue that move. So that's kind of where we are there as well. Now, obviously, it takes time for certain manufacturing to get started, but it doesn't take what it used to, right? People are now doing a lot of things within 12 months. If they get the permits, the permits there, they can do a lot of these big, heavy buildings now in 12 months rather than, 3 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years, or even Canada, under the Trudeau government, it's taken like 10 years. And of course, they shut down a lot of good stuff as well. And of course, in Germany, they're insane. Germany, some of the smartest people in the history, and now become some of the stupidest people because they've shut down their power plants. I mean, some of these are brand new, shutting down brand new gas power stations. I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff happening while China's producing 2 power stations every week. It's crazy. It's just insanity. That's what I'm saying. It's great to have Trump back. We're back to common sense. It's going to be a bit of tough love in the short term. And of course, Trump talked about it being an operation. And of course, the patient has to heal. And that's kind of where we are at the moment. So it's going to be fun to see that play out. And I'm very excited to see somebody in the world leading the right way there because it's very far in between there. All right, so good comment there from Brennan. Big shout out there. Let's move on into the crypto markets. And of course, at the moment, we've got Bitcoin down. So Bitcoin was actually holding up not too bad yesterday, but Bitcoin is down at the moment at 76,000. In fact, I'm going to leave this chart here because it's gone a bit awry. Let's go to CoinGecko, and we've got pretty much the market cap of crypto at 2.5 trillion. So we have come down a bit from about 2.7, 2.8. We're down 6%. So that's kind of heavy down there at the moment. Now, Bitcoin at the moment is at 76,400. It is down 3.3% for the last day and down 10% for the week. Ethereum there at number 2 is at 1470. Can you believe it? We were up at like 4,100 not long ago. We're certainly up in the 2,000s, 3,000s. Now we're at $1,470. So, you time the dip as best you can. It's down 5% on the 24 hours, 23% for the week. OMG, what a time to start scooping up there. You don't have to do it all at the same time. You just a bit here, a bit there at these cheap prices. Pretty good there if you're bringing fresh capital, of course. XRP there, $1.79, down 4.8%, 16% down on XRP for the last week there. Crazy, isn't it? BNB is normally a bit more resilient just because of the way tokenomics is set up, but it is down 0.5%, so not bad today, and down 9% for the week there. So you're going to get that with BNB, right? And then, of course, Solana at number 7 is down just under 1%, down 17% for the week. So that's actually the second worst after Ethereum, down at the moment in top 10. Tron, of course, which benefited from big USD Tether, printing another $1 billion. about a week ago or so. That is up 1.1% at the moment, and of course only down 2.8% for the last 27 days. Doge Doge there, number 9. I get in trouble with my American friends. We got Doge there. It is at number 9, down 4% for the last 24 hours, down 18% for the week. So that's actually the second one there, actually behind Ethereum. And of course, that gives Solana a bit of breathing room there. Those are the top 10 at the moment. So that's where we are at the moment. And looking at some of the top gainers, looks like we've got Retard Finder Coin, Dora Factory, and Ample Fourth Governance there. They're all up pretty much here on CoinGecko. And we've got a couple of coins trending, but they're all down at the moment here. Notcoin, Epic Chain, and Solidus AI there are trending, but they're down at the moment. So that is where we are on the old crypto. And that's going to lead us into a couple of comments here from this little article we're going to talk about. Don't forget to get in the chat there as well. Say a few comments. Hedgehog says, who are you calling Doge? Doge. I'm trying to say it right. Get in trouble there. Brennan says, much more strategic than the 2020 tariff war. Absolutely, Brennan. Some good insights there. Wookie says, there must be an election coming up in Oz, saying anything before you vote. We got Raging Magikarp, a Raging Magikarp there. Hello from Polestar. A big shout out to you. And a big shout out to the Polestar community there. Hello from the Poke Center, the only Pokemon meme coin community on the blockchain. Well, it's good to have you on the blockchain there with the Pokemon, so it's definitely a marketplace for that. Got to catch them all, says Brennan. Yeah, got to get them all. Brian says Trump is the end of their world. Absolutely. Resistance is futile. That's true. We've got Property View in the house there. Good to see you. China love the wokeness as it causes division in the West. I know they do. That's how they do it. They put in this progressive wokeism, and they divide and conquer you, right? They set you up in different groups, and then they rank you all, and then they abuse the people that they consider the worst, and they give the most to the people they consider the best, and they just leave you divided. And then they pass laws to stop you from complaining about it and put you in prison if you do, and then they let the criminals out. This is the upside down world of the woke progressives, and we've had enough of it, haven't we? Had enough of that. We got Valiant in the house there. Good to see you as well. Peak of friendship confirmed. Ting ting. Let's see. Wookie says this feels like work. It does indeed. You need a nap as well. I would agree. Wookie, take a rest. You got golf day coming up. You got to be fresh for that. Looks like the PUSD ALGO contribution phase is about to end, says Valiant. Whoa, really? So look at that. Apparently that's about to end. We're going to get into all that. I haven't covered that, but we're going to cover that probably tomorrow, the next day. The reason why I haven't covered, we were going to have the Mafia show today. If you guys remember, I had to change that because the timing wasn't very friendly for Cult DeFi, but we will reset that Mafia show, and we'll be covering things like PUSD ALGO on there. Valiant says we survived 4 years of opposite day leadership. Now it's time to get back on track. Absolutely, where the world is based on facts and reality, and not on some fantasy. Because fantasy, they pretend that it's just we're gonna create this whole new world view of the world, but really it's an upside down world, and then they trap you in it. So it's about time that people stood up, because otherwise you don't want to be in that world. That's kind of a nightmare on Earth, and we want to make Earth at least as good as we can. All right, so that's kind of where we are at the moment. Trump Liberation Day, tariffs create chaos in markets, says this is on a Cointelegraph article. Economic observers are concerned over Trump's tariff policy, which is worried about a possible recession. US President Donald Trump introduced a slew of tariffs on April the 2nd, sending markets into a tailspin and dividing crypto observers as to their possible long-term effects. At a special event at the White House, Trump signed an executive order and claimed emergency powers, leveling reciprocal tariffs at every country that has a tariff on US goods, starting at a minimum at 10%. And that's what New Zealand got, right? New Zealand got that, but of course our foreign minister went over there, and he knew what he was dealing with, and he came back, and New Zealand sort of got off pretty scot-free there. The long-term effect that the sway the new tax could have on global markets is unknown. The uncertainty is compounding by ambiguous methodology the Trump administration used to determine the tariffs. Now, the tariff methodology is weird, but that's not the point. The point is chaos and realigning the world order. So that's what it's all about. That's all it is there. Some believe that the crypto market is due for a boom as investors seek an alternative for traditional investments. And I'm in that camp, right? I'm in that camp. Others note the effect tariffs could have on mining equipment, hampering profitability, and more still, others are concerned about the broader impact on tariffs and a possible recession. Trump's tariffs provide certainty for markets, Financial markets crashed immediately on the news of the tariffs, with crypto markets no exception. Obviously, they were all down, as we talked about, and we've come down quite a bit since then. Some market analysts aren't shaken. Trader Michael Van der Pope wrote that the tariffs won't be as bad as the entire population expects them to be. Certainly the impacts. I think the impacts are going to be as bad, even though we've got these, slapping on high tariffs. Remember, out of the 1.2 trillion deficit I talked about, China's about 350 billion around of that amount. So that's kind of gives you the idea. And of course, it's not just about the tariffs position as well. It's also obviously they're going to make tax revenue from that, but also it's about strategic positioning in the world, given that China's, wants to be number one. That's why they put it in their 5-year plan, their long year. I think they've got a 30-year plan too. They put that in there. They want to be number one, control the world pretty much. And we don't want that. Authoritarianism, come on. Having one guy tell you what you should think and feel and eat and where you can go, get out of here. We don't want that. We're freedom, right? Maximum freedom most of the time, right? All the time. It's all the time. Let's go for all the time. We got maximum freedom all the time. And that's really important, right? So we got authoritarianism moving in the West, right? That's what socialist progressives are. That's what they do, but they do that. And of course, I call them useful idiots for the globalists, at the WF and other places, because they think they're playing big games. And sitting behind them is some big, evil, powerful billionaires and people like that. So there's definitely picking orders to these guys. And I've actually met some of these kind of people, and they're not very good. They're not very good. Some market analysts are shaken, and of course, uncertainty fades away. Gold will drop, buy the rumor, and sell the news, he said. Altcoins and Bitcoin goes up, sell the rumor, buy the news. And BitMEX founder there, Arthur Hayes, said that while the tariffs may reduce the trade deficit, fewer exports could limit the demand for U.S. treasuries. That's another thing, of course, the tax you're getting. Fewer exports could limit the demand for U.S. treasuries, requiring domestic intervention from the Federal Reserve to stabilize the market. The Fed and the banking system must step up to ensure a well-functioning treasury market, which means brr. I got to say it. Brr means brr. And so what does brr mean? It's a reference to the Reserve printing more money, as a theory Hayes has previously suggested could be positive for Bitcoin's price as increased liquidity enters the market. And that's what I said earlier at the beginning of the live stream, right? That even if we have fears of a soft recession or something like that in the short term, that may put pressure on the Fed to actually, capitulate, reduce interest rates, and of course print more money. So we shall see. And of course, tariffs may play into that whole narrative there. It seems like a win-win across the board, if you ask me, for this. So we're going to see how that all plays out there. Now, that's kind of a few little insights there. Now, looking at the real GDP, gross domestic product for the United States, is basically kind of a national income for the United States. And it's sitting around about 27.5 trillion, somewhere in that ballpark. And Trump wants to grow this, not at 2.5%, but at 3-4% or more even. And so that's why he started off straight away when he got into the Oval Office. He dealt with energy, because he wants cheap energy prices. It's like you get cheap energy prices, then you can get the economy booming. And then what did he do? He bought in, he got proposals like LNG terminals down the Gulf of America all running. So he's got 2 of those now that have been approved. And then, of course, who did he get into the White House? He got Japan. And, of course, he got India in the house. Why? Because they're the net buyers in the world, right? They're the net buyers. And so he got the net buyers in, and they came in and they did deals. And so he kicked off the energy with a boom, and that's super exciting, right? And then, of course, what did he do after that? He focused on getting investment into the private sector too, because that's part of his strategy, right? We talked about that, shifting the public sector, shrinking that dramatically, and, of course, moving that into the private sector. And, of course, you need investment to do that, right, to boom the United States for jobs, for construction, and, of course, to modernize the United States as well. It's not just about building old school manufacturing, because obviously technology has changed the game quite a bit, but it's also about modernizing. And of course, that's AI, that's semiconductors, that's robotics, that's space, everything else like that. It's going to be a pretty exciting time. And so he's trying to lift the GDP, and of course, it lower the taxes as well. By lowering the taxes, more people have more money to invest, and of course, that means that you're going to have even more fuel for the fire to boom the U.S. economy. So it's all going to be good. And of course, you get the Federal Reserve into it, printing money. You get the people investing, making good decisions. They have more money in their pockets. You get foreign investment. Of course, all these 70 countries and more lining up. Part of the deal. What's the deal going to be? Out of the deal, get them to invest more and more and more. And we've seen many of the countries saying, wait, we're going to start investing. And of course, who did he have yesterday? he had Israel, right, saying, "Oh, we are a model example." This is what the Prime Minister said: "We're the model example that everyone else should follow." Wink, 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 wink. And so this is kind of where we're heading there. So it's going to be pretty awesome, this chart. And so what do we expect on this chart? We expect this chart at the end here to start going really vertical, right? We're going to start get to 3-4%, going to start looking very parabolic, and that's kind of what we want to see there. And that's going to obviously get more taxes, even with the tax cuts, because you're going to have take your costs out through the douche. You're going to increase your revenue overall, and therefore you're going to move to balanced budget and potentially to surplus budget, and then you can start paying down that massive elephant in the room, the US debt of about $37 trillion, which is a monster. It's a monster, and of course, man, eventually it was going to have its day, because under the Democrats they were wanting to destroy America and do a managed decline. Remember that managed decline? Well, they're rich. Have no borders while they have security and live in gated communities, live off in an island, right? These are the people you're talking about. And they get the mainstream media to tell you that everything is normal. Everything is normal, right? So it's like crazy. The same people, I won't get into some of those topics, but they're the same people that tell you certain things are obviously factually false, but they get you to believe it because they just keep telling you every time and time again. Even though if you actually put little witch hats on them, you'd suddenly see how they sound. They'd be like, my pretty, we've got you good. We're going to put you in the pot and stir you around. That's kind of what it's like. Anyway, that's enough drama. So that chart's a key chart, right? Key chart there, that US GDP. Now, obviously with Bitcoin, let's have a look where we are at the moment. We're at $76,472. We are coming, unfortunately, we got the circle. This is a circle of volatility. And we've got the orange line, which is the 200-day moving average of Bitcoin here on Coinbase. And the 50-day is at 85,740. It's the yellow line. That's the short term, right? The 50-day, that is about to cross the orange line. That's the 200-day, the longer period. And, of course, that is a death cross coming up. So that is the last thing we need, right? Obviously on the TA. But they can be short-lived, right? They can be short-lived. We get enough good news and things can reverse pretty quickly. And here we are at the moment. Now, here's another thing with these market makers in stock market and crypto, is that some of these may also be colluding with the Democrats, because they could have also been the ones that wanted to send the markets down last week, and of course in crypto over the weekend. So there is a theory going about that as well. And do not put it past the Democrats what they will do. They will burn societies to get control and to damage Trump, who's ushering in freedom, not just freedom, but freedom for the people. And so that's definitely a theory that could be entertained by some of these financial institutions, like BlackRock. Why? Because they can make money on the down, right? They can short it as well. So they can do the political outcome that get asked. Maybe they get a special phone call from Mr. X, and then suddenly they suddenly decide, yeah, let's get our short table. Let's get the financial boys and go and burn. Now, if you haven't seen some of these financial movies in the past with these traders, they get them together and they say, hey, we're going to burn all this stuff. And they move first right in the market. So could get a bit of that too. That definitely happens. I've seen it in real life. And so, yeah, it's definitely a play there. So that's one theory there. Food for thought, eh? Food for thought. So anyway, here we are at the moment with this death cross upon us. Now, it may very well be short-lived, but of course, we've still got volatility this week because we've still got these tariffs rolling out. And this may last. And I hate to say it, but this may last through to May, through to June. It's possible. But we may probably get a reversal earlier than that. So I'm fingers crossed for a reversal. But we saw already some of the cabinet from Trump's cabinet talk about that this may be, go through to they may not get all these deals done until maybe May, June. But at the moment, they're all coming around pretty much faster than people expected. Probably not what Trump knew what was going to happen, but they're coming in pretty fast and thick. So maybe we'll get better off here. And we've also got inflation coming out. So fingers crossed here. We'll see what happens in the next week. I say that's kind of the short-term volatility, and see whether if we get some good news there, it may allay any further decrease there. But at the moment, of course, the bottom of the market that I had was down here at 63K, and we're currently at 76. So that's kind of where I had the bottom at 63. So we'll see if we actually hit that. Some people have the bottom at 70K. I had it at 63, but it's not inevitable, right? Not inevitable. So if we get some good news coming out, obviously China is the big overhanging one there, and that's going to keep the markets down for the time being. All right, let's get into the Bitcoin history and see where we're at the moment. So we're down 6.8% at the moment for April. And of course, we've had a red month for February, red month for March. Now, obviously, everyone hoped that Trump, with the digital strategy, would be good for crypto, but unfortunately, he had to do his tariff plan, which we knew was coming, and this has actually impacted the world so pretty much. So the fact that he scaled it to the full world, that was probably a little bit surprising to most people. But this is kind of where we are at the moment. But we will get into the bull run for crypto. It's basically just been delayed, right? Just been delayed. So we will get that, and maybe it's going to come in May or June, but it's definitely getting pushed out, right? Getting pushed out. That's all. Now we've still got all the same investors going to be coming in. All the U.S. states are, clamoring to get into the Bitcoin strategic reserve kind of position because the United States is doing it. We've still got the altcoin stockpile, and we've still got sovereign states and institutions sitting there waiting to get the crypto once things stabilize in the market. So we probably would have seen that already start to come in April, but of course the tariffs have delayed that for the time being. All right, so that's kind of where we are at the moment. So we'll keep a track of this chart. Now we're going to get into the ETFs. So we obviously got a bit of down days, but look how much. The down days aren't big for the ETFs. Look how they're all pretty small down days. So it's not a big deal there. You're talking about net assets 84 billion. It's not a lot of big difference there as the chart's going. So it's been pretty good, pretty good there. Now IBIT had been performing pretty well down today, but other than that, we haven't got big outflows going on at the moment. And that's a good sign of the fact, there's a lot of confidence in the market for there. Now, I know some people have been talking about Michael Saylor building a deck of cards or a house on the sand, but I don't think so. I think he's going to be quite right there. Now, he's got his big 20-year forecast at the 2045, right? He's got that at $13 million a Bitcoin. So he's hoping that he's right, but I'm sure he's right because we already got, 19.8 million of the Bitcoin, 21 million Bitcoin out. The last bit of Bitcoin's coming out in 2141. And we probably got 2 million at least that has been lost. We got 1 million Bitcoin in Satoshi's wallet. Really, a lot of the people that hold Bitcoin are in the private hands, so retail and large holders. So corporates, all these corporates coming in, these wealth sovereign funds, these institutions, these United States, these sovereign states, all of them coming in are going to have to buy them off the retail book, right? So we could see a pretty quick reversal in crypto. 30, 40 days of the week of the year, we see most of the movements up and down. And so once we do that, get that reversal, could be pretty mightily awesome. And still got 150 to 250 target for this year with the potential upside of 400K. Now, we know to get to gold, that would be about a 10x or so from here at the moment. So to get to gold market cap, and that's probably going to happen. Once we get to a certain level, then people are going to rush to get maybe possibly get that gold market convergence over $20 trillion, right? So that could be pretty exciting coming up. So bring it on. We're only at about 1.5 at the moment. Now, this is the Bitcoin halving chart. Now, I haven't actually showed this chart, I don't think, for a long time, but this is the Bitcoin halving chart. And you can see that, people are saying the 4-year cycle is over, right? Recently, I think I saw yesterday, was it Crypto Coffee? Probably the biggest influencer in the Polstream community. He was saying, I think I've given up the 4-year cycle. I'm pretty sure it was Crypto Coffee that I was talking about. He was giving up this 4-year, hope so, because I'm putting his name to it. 4-year cycle might be over, right? So that's pretty crazy. So it was either him or Dipcatcher. I can't remember now. Well, I'm pretty sure it was Crypto Coffee, but anyway, my mind's playing tricks. So this purple line down the bottom here is Epic 5, right? So Era 5 here. This is after the 5th halving here, and we can see that we are really struggling. And of course, we got a special event though, right? Special event. Trump's come in with this big, huge tariff plan. This is not like the last 20 years, right? This is a major restructure of the world order, a pulling down of the liberal trading order, and actually giving up, I would call a MAGA trading order, where you actually have real free trade, right? The liberal world order of free trade is false, right? It's false. All the non-American countries have all these tariffs and non-tariff barriers. America has very, very low to no tariffs. And so this is the upside down world, right? So it may have been fine up until the 2000s, but after the 2000s, it became a bit of quite a drain on the United States as well. And Democrats, of course, wanted to accelerate, and some bad GOP early presidents as well. Now we have, obviously, we're down here at the moment, so we're down about 131% since the halving. So that's kind of where we are. It's 374 days, and so we are sitting at about 131%. Now, in the previous halvings, we were up 452%. For halving number 4, halving number 3, we're up 347% at the stage. Halving number 2, we were at 6,000%, and halving number one, they were at 28,000%. So the changes are definitely slowed down, even though the base is higher. So you've got to take that into account, right? But the percentages sort of normalize things a bit. And of course, as you get an absolute level, the percentages can slow down. But still, this is very, very lagged, and we're expecting big things. I'm expecting a bigger era price movement for era 5 since the halving than epic 4, right? Why? Because we've got ETFs, we've got strategic Bitcoin reserve, we've got all those players on the field. We've pretty much got everybody, and they just have to play the game now, right? They just have to play the game. We've got some people on the field, but we need everybody, and everybody can now get on the field, whereas previously they couldn't before this last halving, right? And that all kicked off in January last year, right, with the Bitcoin ETF on the 10th of January. So this is really bullish. We're obviously delayed here. I think it's just going to be more violent to the upside. I just think so. We're going to have this really bad-looking chart, and of course, then we're going to have this really violent move to the upside. And I think that's what's going to happen coming up. So keep a lookout for that. I think this chart's a little bit misleading, but at the moment it's representing what's actually happening. But I really do think that's probably going to turn around there as well. Now, if you guys want to check out this chart in your own time, I'll post it in the chat there in case you want to check it out, because it's a pretty cool chart, right? Since the Bitcoin halving there. All right, so let's scroll that down. That is the link there. Bam. Check that out. Valiant says Fed cuts could come sooner than expected. Yeah, they would have to capitulate, but if the conditions got tough enough, they would have to do that. Other than that, they would barely be doing their master's will. They're supposed to be neutral, right? Supposed to be neutral, but I dare say I question that sometimes. Valiant says, so right, man, I appreciate that. Big shout out to you. All right, so that is kind of where we are there. Let's jump away and let's move on into the positive stuff. So we've talked about a lot of the issues, a lot of the strategies that Trump's playing out. We've talked a little bit about where crypto could go. It's just been delayed. But this chart here gives you a really optimistic view of where we could be heading with the crypto, and that is Bitcoin price could rally even as global trade rages on. Here's why. Bitcoin price could soar if the high stakes trade war game being played by the US leads to meaningful negotiations. And we've got like 70 countries so far, obviously China and 2 or 3 other countries being sticky at the moment. Crypto and equities traders were hopeful for a last-minute solution that would prevent the US from enacting 104% tariffs on China's goods entering the United States. Actually, I might just zoom in on this a little bit more. Entering the United States. And of course, but in a press conference, the White House there, let me get rid of these cookies here. The White House, in a press conference, the White House confirmed that tariffs would start on April the 9th. So we had that 10% tariff on the April the 2nd, remember? Markets deteriorated, and now we've got selected tariffs, right? What they call higher tariffs on the 9th of April. Of course, markets deteriorated with Peter Navarro, trade advisor to President Donald Trump, stated that tariffs were not in negotiation. And of course, you've got this yin and yang here going on. And of course, Elon Musk doesn't like him and his strategy, Navarro and the strategy, right? As a result, the S&P 500 index closed on April the 8th with a 1.6% loss, reversing earlier gains on the 4th. This downturn has left traders wondering whether Bitcoin can regain its bullish momentum and amid worsening macroeconomic conditions. Now, the not negotiation just means more leverage, right? More leverage in the negotiations. You don't want to give up all your cards and look soft going into negotiations, saying, oh, we're into negotiations. You already kind of conceded a little bit there that you're negotiating. So, and there are multiple outcomes that they are seeking, as we've gone through many of them earlier. Spiral US debt issues remain, paving the way for Bitcoin gains. Between April the 2nd and April the 7th, the S&P 500 index drops by 14.7%, causing a panic amongst Bitcoin holders and forcing a retest of the 75K level, the lowest in more than 5 months. And we're just above that now, right? 76. During an appearance with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on April the 7th, President Trump reportedly said his goal was to reset the table on trade. And that is a new world order, basically ushering in there, the MAGA World Trade World Order, I guess we call it. He added that there can be permanent tariffs, and there could be also negations because of things that we need beyond tariffs. And that's what's going to happen, right? There will be permanent tariffs, and there will be protected industries, but there will also be a lot of deals being done, right? And at the end of the day, America's going to benefit, and of course, the world will actually benefit with that tough love, and we'll have a better place, right? So it's going to be pretty cool. Amid this uncertainty, IPOs and mergers have been delayed, while leveraging loan deals and bond sales were sidelined, according to our U Finance app. It becomes clear that the stock market is likely to rally if trade wars risks subside. Economists have cautioned the tariffs could trigger inflation and significantly raise the chances of an economic recession. And of course, however, Assessing the impact of Bitcoin's price remains a challenging task. This is because some investors see the cryptocurrency fixed monetary system as a safeguard against the continuous expansion of global fiat currency supplies. Short-term correlations hurt BTC, but possibly interest rate cuts could turn the tide, and that is simply something we might end up seeing there. And just sort of got that link there. So in the short term, positive correlation to Bitcoin stock market is expected to persist. US government's fiscal challenges present a potential opportunity for Bitcoin's price to grow. On April the 8th, US 10-year Treasury yield rose 4.28%, following a brief dip to 3.9% on April the 7th. This increase suggests that investors are demanding higher returns to hold these assets. The rising cost of rolling over $9 trillion in federal government debt set to mature within the next 12 months expect to increase a fiscal imbalance and weaken the US dollar. Obviously, with the interest rates are relatively high still compared to what they used to be a couple of years back when we had very low interest rate cycle. We normally have an interest rate cycle of 7 years, and of course that was extended, a very, very low cycle. And of course, then we suddenly had this ramp. The Federal Reserve ramped up aggressively the interest rates, the fastest in history. And I think we have some of those effects not being seen yet. US dollar index has diverged from the US Treasury yields, falling to 1.03 on April the 8th. And of course, it's lower than that now. It's at 1.02. This situation could potentially support Bitcoin's price, a sentiment shared by BlackRock CEO Larry Fink in his March 31 letters to investors. And Michael Gappin, Morgan Stanley's chief US economist, stated in a client note on April the 8th, we think the right answer is for the Fed to wait in its current stance for longer, and that's what they seem to be signaling at the moment. And of course, Morgan Stanley updated its forecast. The US Federal Reserve is expected to maintain interest rates between 4.2 and 4.5%. That's currently what they are at the moment until March 2026. So this is not what Trump wants. Trump doesn't want that. Adding that only a recession would change the calculus, and a recession could mean earlier and larger upfront cuts, and also monetary printing, right? So we talked about that earlier. We talked about that earlier. It could be cool. Bitcoin's momentum is likely to turn positive as traders realize that the US Federal Reserve has limited tools to avoid recession without risking inflation, while predicting the exact timing of a breakout remains uncertain. Prolonged days in resolving trade war issues could drive investors towards scarce assets like Bitcoin, especially amid fears of potential US dollar devaluation. So that could definitely be a scenario that plays out there. And like I say, we have heard the Besant there talk about the possibly getting this all done and dusted by May, June. You got to remember, this is the same timeline to get this tariff situation worked out by May, June is the same timeline that they want to get the tax bill through Congress and Senate worked out through May, June as well. So it's all the same timeline. It has to be done pretty quickly by mid-year. That's the target there. So if you're wondering when it's all going to be definitely probably done by then. Now, obviously, they don't control all the governments like China, of course, but they've only really got 3 or 4 exceptions they're working through. The rest, everyone else is lining up for the new world order, which is actually going to be very, very good for us, the United States, and of course benefit us too here in New Zealand and places like that. Because in New Zealand, in Australia, Canada, Europe, the classic West, obviously Japan typically included. We've got, apart from Japan, we've got terrible leaders. We've got terrible, I cannot tell you how bad they are. They're really destroying our countries. So the only hope we have is President Trump doing this. This is we're going to get an indirect impact from this, as opposed to having no impact at all and just going into decline, right? So it is very, very important that Trump fixes all this up. I cannot understate that enough. The people running our governments, running our mainstream media, running our institutions, all just utterly idiotic. I mean, we've been captured by psychos, like with zombies walking around. It really is crazy. So Trump is a breath of fresh air, really is. So bring it on. That's all I can say. So that's kind of cool there. Let's get into Pulse Chain. And of course, Pulse Chain, man, 698 days. Can you believe it? Since Pulse Chain launched, and that was on the 30th of May 2023. Previously, of course, it was based on the fork on 10th of May, and Richard Hart, of course, the founder of that, has yesterday opened up his comments, so it's a bullish sign moving forward, I would say, on X. Now we've got Pulse at the moment, quadruple 0209, down 3%, sitting at 21% of the mean sacrifice price. PulseX at quadruple 0178, down 5.25%, and that is sitting at 1.37 trillion on the burn. And it's just under 80% of the mean sacrifice price at the moment. So obviously these are all very good prick-up prices at the moment. Incentive token at $1.05, down 6.2%. And the inflation, of course, been cut 20x. So that's a big sign from Richard Hart there. Things are about to change in the future. And, of course, Hex there is at 4700th of a penny, down 4.3%. EHEX at 1300th of a penny. Combined price of EHEX and PX at 16th of a penny. What a bargain at the moment, and maybe a good shopping period over the next week or two. That's all we can say. Let's get to the gas prices. We've got 3 million beats on the gas prices, 2 cents for a Pulse swap. We've got the validators at the moment, 48,900. They've been creeping up. If you notice that, obviously with cheaper Pulse, people can buy 32 million Pulse and start validating and just sit back and relax, wait for the bull market to happen, and of course the Pulse chain to pump. And of course that magic carpet ride money is really going to boom too, right? It's down about 60% or so at the moment. It is going to obviously recover too once we get a reversal. Bridge there. Let's have a look at the bridge. We're at 77.6 million. I'm just trying to think where this was versus yesterday. We were 78 yesterday, maybe 78. So I think it's pretty similar. It might be different by $1 million or so. Did we get down to 76? I can't remember, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. Normally I remember those things, but I've forgotten now. So we were somewhere between 76 and 78. So we're still in that ballpark, let's say. We got EDI there at 23.2 million. That's pretty normal from yesterday. Everything else looks pretty similar. Obviously, EX there down a bit, and so is obviously ETH and Bitcoin. So that's kind of dragging us there. But Coast is coming the way. Coast is doing well, 9.4 million. So hooray to Coast. They're saving the day on Pulse Chain. And of course, we can't wait for PUSD ALGO, right, to come, right? PUSD ALGO, that's coming, and that's going to save the day as well. So bring on that. You can find the link to that if you want to get part of. Oh, it's closing down apparently. So we've got some news there about that. I don't know exactly. Is it closing today? I don't think it's closing today, is it? But we're looking forward to that. Valiant says got to expect some deviation in the bull market cycle while restructuring the world economic order. That's true. Well summarized there, Valiant. All right. Get him a sandwich. Yeah, that'd be nice. I'll have a nice sandwich after the live stream. All right, up to an hour and 1 minute there. Let's get into the volumes and let's see where we are. So volumes at the moment, we've got $24.5 million. That's actually up. So it's kind of cool. We had quite a few days at around 22 million. I think yesterday we were up at like 28 million. It looks like we're at 24.4 million today. So down a bit from yesterday, but better than the previous days. And the best performers at the moment. Let's have a look here. We got Teddy Bear. Let me go up here. Let me just refresh this. We've got Cry. This is a new community that launched last night. In fact, I saw it jump over from Pump Tires. Just happened to be looking at Pump Tires and I see it about to go. So that was pretty fun. And then I watched the launch and it had a big rally at the beginning, but then a whale had about 15% of the supply. The team, I think, had a lot of the other supply, but a whale had the rest of the supply and dumped it down. So as soon as the market cap got to 100,000, now the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's a lesson to be learned, right? So this got onto Pump Tires, and this doesn't happen every time. But interesting enough, they were in the chat group there for Cry, and which is just a new chat, of course. And they were talking about let's hit 100K. Well, it hit 100K, and then the whale sold. So this is crypto. Get used to it, but interesting. It rallied big time, about 10x or so. It was really, really high. The rally, and it went big, and then of course sold back down, and it's slowly been creeping back up right here. So you can see at the moment, and of course the community did a big burn there too. So that is where we are at the moment on this project. Let me get back to the price on this one. So that is where it is at the moment. So this is Cry. It's got a it's got a website and a Twitter account and all that sort of stuff. So you can check that out. And this is currently leading there. It just came over from Pump Tires. How old is it? Not that old. 12 hours ago. There we go. So a brand new community there. Cry. And it's got Richard Hart with his crying, a little crying emoji. I'm not sure if you can see that actually. There it is there. Crying emoji. Little crying emoji. So they've gone with this brand. This is their meme coin, right? So it's the meme coin, and the team apparently burned some coins. So you can go check that out. But there we go. This is a little shout out for them. We got what else? We got Fed Tech here 3 months ago. Teddy Bear, of course. This is the new Teddy Bear. There's another Pump Tires, and of course this was launched by. I think it was launched by Moon King. Certainly he supported it, and of course you can decide whether or not you like it or not. But this had a big pump last night. It's still up 41% today. But it's down 21% over the last 6 hours. So some big player took profits. Now, two things about this, right? One, there are a lot of big holders of this Teddy Bear. Now, you guys know there's only 1 billion tokens in Teddy Bear because it's the Pump Tires. But there's a lot of big holders. So you got the usual problem. That's true in a lot of cryptos, but more true in others, right? So some cryptos have been around for a long time. Sort of the big holders kind of just hold it. Whereas with the new protocols, when they're making 10x's, 20x's at the beginning, you get some of them just dump on it, right? So that's what I'm talking about. You can see some of those red candles here where, some people have come in and sold their volume in because they've made, the big gains and they take the profits, right? So just take that into account. But the other thing, of course, is that Moon King's a big influence. He's backed this one. He's moved away from PDI, and he's got a big into Teddy, and of course he's big into PDDC. We talked about the other day, yesterday I think it was. And so he's got over 100,000 followers, probably the biggest one outside Richard Hart that I'm aware of in our community. He's not a YouTuber, but he's an ex-influencer. And this is where we are, 4/10 of a penny at the moment. So we're going to be seeing how this goes. Now, remember the Teddy Bear Classic from James Maria, the Atropa dev, which kind of wrecked the whole thing. Obviously, maybe he was worried about the exporter for PDI, Mr. Dong, or maybe he was, playing both sides. Who knows? But here we are, 4/10 of a penny, and it's up 29% still. So we'll see how this goes. It's sort of, maybe it's gone through the initial phase of volatility. We'll see. And maybe it can start inching its way back up in the charts. That's the new Teddy 2.0 there from Moon King. And of course, it's got the best artwork, isn't it? I mean, it's obviously one of the best memes on Polestar. It's not the only best meme, but it's there's only one best meme or two best memes. You decide. Anyway, enough nonsense. All right, so let's get away down here. We've got Love Dye, another pump tires here. That's up 17%. We got this dye cut. There's another copy of dye, right? There's pump tires up 15%. So pump tires is dominating Polestar, which is why I'm going to be doing a video on it coming up. So stay tuned for that. That's my next video. I don't know whether I'll either be doing Mafia tomorrow or be doing pump tires tokens tomorrow, because that's what's dominating. We're going to break some of the stuff down into a next level. We're going to go next level with it. Now, speaking of next level, if you guys haven't joined our Telegram group, you got to get in. So let me post that. That is the Telegram group there. It's free. We have an alpha list. It is free. The alpha list is free, and we got all the best protocols for the most part. We got a couple not on there, but most part get in there. And of course, we've got printer tokens. We've got the best farm tokens. We've got lots of stuff on there, and it's free. Now, the other thing, of course, if you want to join our Discord, the link's in the description for that too. That's really good value. It's a private Discord, so I think it's about $12.50 a month. I think it is. So really good value, maybe 15. I can't remember, 12.50 or something in there. You'll see when you get to the shop page. And of course, if you want to get to the highest level of stuff we provide, it's on the Strategy Club. That's $35 a month. So, and that is outstanding value compared to a lot of other strategy places out there. So get on that too. All right, so here we are with the chart here. We got some of the other ones here. We got Trump and Best. These are both pump tires as well. So as you can see, pump tires are dominating at the moment, and that's all Richard Hart, right? So that's up 14%. We've got Trump up 8.5% there. Remember, is one of these printer tokens. That's holding pretty strong at the moment. I think the yield's about a 1.5% a day of your capital return. So it's doing pretty well. It's up 7%. We covered that the other day. So check out my printer video that we did the other day. It covers that and the tools that people are using to track their their drops to their wallets. We got Gophers there. So 404 contract. This is from Dipcatcher. You guys remember from the Maximus crew. And that's back on the ascendancy again. That's up 4%. That's been doing pretty well. PDC the Greys, of course, been doing well as well. We covered that yesterday. Badass community, right? Hit 14,000 holders, 3,000 on Telegram, and a big, awesome project there. One of the best on Polestar, and real investor class, right? Investor class, blue chip class there. And a big shout out to Prairie, who covers that. He's done a great job over there. Kind of cool. That's kind of where we're at the moment. UFO doing well as well. Beast doing pretty well. Another printed token. 9mm, one of the dexes, our second biggest dex at the moment, is up 1.3%. So got a little bit of moves there. Mnemonics as well, Bitgreen as well. So lots of cool stuff happening there amongst the top leading categories. And the only category we really haven't covered is going to be pump tires. So we're going to cover that probably tomorrow, if not the next day. So stay tuned for that. You're going to get, we're going to go on the deep and down low on that, something like that. Whatever I'm saying, I'm not quite sure, but we're going to be covering all that sort of stuff. All right, so how are we doing for time? An hour and 8 minutes. We are rocking it here on the DMV, as we say, DMV. It's an American term, but hey, look, we grew up on American movies and TV, so can you blame me? I mean, it's just the way it goes. We have our own stuff as well, but we kind of it was cool. Family ties and friends and all this other stuff, depending on the decade. Every decade we watch different shows. I don't know what's the big show at the moment. I guess it's that cowboy show at the moment, right, in the United States. That cowboy show is being pretty popular. All right, so that's kind of where we are with the markets. I think that we're going to finish up there. I think that was pretty good. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We covered a lot of stuff. Big shout out everybody over on Rumble, on X, on YouTube. You guys are amazing, and I really appreciate all your support. I really love you guys to become part of our community. We have a very good community, and you can ask the people in the community how good it is, because it is really great. And we talk about pretty much everything and have a good time there and support each other. Now, we do keep things PG for the most part because we want everyone to be, get along and have a family safe time. So it is pretty cool like that. So if that's something that you can mesh with you, definitely join up. So we've got our Telegram group. I posted that at the top of the chat. We've also obviously got the Discord links in the video description. And if you do want to get into PUSD ALGO before it closes, apparently the sacrifice contribution phase is closing off. The link's in the video description, and I've got a 19% referral bonus there. If you do $1,000 inclusive of that referral bonus, you get a random number bonus X. That's the second bonus up to 2X. It's randomly generated, and that would get you a pretty good position in the old PUSD ALGO. And maybe we got some news about that. I just didn't get to check it today, and that looks like it's something I'm going to be talking about possibly tomorrow. So that would be pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, an hour and 10 minutes. It's a good place to finish. Don't forget, smash the follow button, smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, and definitely share and repost the channel around. I'll see you in in Telegram and on Discord. Until next time, I'll catch you on the next video. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. Crypto to the moon. It's going to come. It's going to come, and we're tracking it pretty closely here. All right, take care, everybody, and bye for now.